James Comey just made history, but not the good kind. He's the first former FBI director ever indicted, charged with lying to Congress and obstructing a congressional investigation. Fox News correspondent David Spunt joins us now with more. David.
Well, this grand jury took just a few hours yesterday in Northern Virginia to debate and come back with these two charges, making history with James Comey. Now, count one is false statements within the jurisdiction of legislative branch of the United States government. Count two, obstruction of a congressional proceeding. I will note that the actual indictment only alleges one false statement made. The indictment's only 2 pages. It points to testimony before Congress back in 2020. Before that, though, we need to go back to May 2017 when Comey testified before the Senate and denied leaking information or authorizing the leak of any information as an anonymous source regarding the probe into Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. On September 30th, 2020, he testified remotely because of COVID and was asked about that original denial in 2017. Now, the date is very specific because the statute of limitations for making a false statement is typically 5 years. Next Tuesday, guys, marks exactly 5 years since Comey's testimony on September 30th, 2020. The indictment came within that window. Here's President Trump asked about this indictment today on the South Lawn. He was asked if this is revenge.
It's about justice, really. It's not revenge. It's about justice. It's also about the fact that you can't let this go on. They are sick, radical left people, and they can't get away with it. And Comey was one of the people. He wasn't the biggest, but he's a dirty cop. He's always been a dirty cop.
The former FBI director's initial court appearance is October 9th. His attorney is former U.S. attorney and former special counsel Patrick Fitzgerald. He tells Fox he's looking forward to vindicating his client in court. Back to you.
David, thanks for that roundup. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, so Jason, this happened within a neck of the woods you used to inhabit, so you know something about this. What do you make of the contour of the charges here?
I'm glad to see him finally prosecuted, because there were multiple times. Look, I was chairman of the Oversight Committee. I was also on the House Judiciary Committee. We had multiple occasions where we believe people had misled or flat out lied to Congress. We had cases where they would not provide the documents. We made these criminal referrals. I would also tell you that the Inspector General, at the time, Michael Horowitz in my era, made criminal referrals to people throughout the Department of Justice for a variety of things. Almost always, the answer was no, we're not going to prosecute one of our own. So James Comey may be surprised at the Department of Justice, but the Donald Trump Department of Justice is doing what they should have been doing a long time ago, and that is having trials and prosecuting people who are accused, haven't been proven guilty, but have been accused of lying to Congress. If we always argued, look, if you don't start doing this, people would just go, we're useless. When you raise your hand and take that oath, if you're going to lie to Congress, knowingly and willingly. Now, one other thing I want to note, sometimes people would go to Congress, make a statement, and they knew they were really challenged. They would come back in a couple days and correct the record, and we would accept that. And we would update those records. That never happened in the case of James Comey.
He doubled down.
He doubled down, and that's why the Ted Cruz questioning, asking very specific question and allowing him an opportunity, he said no, but you've got other testimony that's going to be, I think, presented. It's going to be a hard case for him.
And here's the problem. When you allow that to go on and on and on, you kind of set a bar that it's okay to do it, and it's not okay. So what we were specifically talking about was his handling as the head of the FBI of 2 investigations, just for people, because it is a little in the weeds and people forget what happened, but it was about Russia interference in the 2016 election and about Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server. So he denied that he approved an FBI official to be an anonymous media source about both of these investigations. And then that's when he doubled down to Ted Cruz about it. The problem that I see here legally, and I'm glad they're going after him, is how you're going to prove it. And that's what his defense is. You know, by the way, Mr. Comey himself, he is an attorney. So when I see him say, I feel sorry about what's happening, happening in the Justice Department and we're going to persevere, I say to myself, he's speaking as an attorney. It depends what evidence there is. If there is something written, emails, texts, those kinds of things are very, very damning. But if it's just a conversation, for example, with the deputy director of the FBI at that time, who was McCabe, and it was just a conversation, and McCabe is saying, yeah, he knew and he authorized this to happen, you're going to have to look at the credibility of the sources and try to decide. That's much harder to do.
Well, yeah, I'm just going to say McCabe is going to be ostensibly a key witness in this, also a massive opponent of Trump.
Yeah.
So how hostile of a witness is he going to be, and what difference does that make?
Well, there's also what happened and what it looks like. Now, no one should lie to Congress, Jason. I agree with you wholeheartedly. But what this looks like, at least from many people's perspective, is that Trump asked Pam Bondi to go find something on James Comey, and she did. And I wouldn't know if I described James Comey as being part of the sick, radical left. But, Jackie, to your point, if this case isn't one, how powerful is the president who promised retribution going to ultimately look?
Dagan.
Karma is a bitch with a long memory. And James Comey hunted Martha Stewart. He wanted a celebrity target. And he prosecuted her, charged her with these two crimes: lying to investigators and obstruction. She got convicted on those two charges. She served 5 months in federal prison in Alderson, West Virginia, and she served 5 months of home confinement. And so these charges are, you cannot argue that people should not be prosecuted for lying to investigators or lying to Congress, because he went after her for the exact same thing. And she did her time. And she's actually a greater, bigger star now than she ever was.
I would take a little bit of an issue with what you said, Jonathan. I don't think that the president promised retribution. He promised justice. And so, look,
during the campaign.
I think he's wanted justice. And I think there's been a foreshadowing. Look, if you're elected the president of the United States, you're the commander in chief, you do not sail to the side and say, oh, the attorney general. You still have a constitutional officer who is the president of the United States, who oversees the Department of Justice. And what you're looking at are recommendations and the Congress saying they lied to him. They're not saying, oh, he lied to me. It's Congress saying they lied to us. And so they'll all try to focus on Trump, 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 Trump. But that's not the issue here. The issue is, did you lie to Congress?
Can I also make one point?
Yeah.
Which I think is important. Trump could say whatever he wants. For those who are saying this is politically motivated, fine, they're going to say that. Of course they are. But the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi isn't going to pursue a case that they're going to have egg then thrown back on their face and look like idiots for. So I don't know what evidence they have or don't have in this situation. But my guess is that they're pretty aware of what happened and they can prove it.
And if James Comey thinks he's going to get a lot of Democrats' support, it's not going to be there, because you know what? And I said this publicly too. James Comey screwed over Hillary Clinton. He screwed over the Democrats. You don't go for 12 minutes or whatever it is and lay out a case against a presidential candidate and then say, but we're not going to charge them. That was so fundamental.
Oh, and then right before the election said we're reopening it to look at the laptop.
And that was a letter that James Comey sent to me, and I released it, and James Comey is no friends of
it is going to be fascinating to watch. Jason Chaffetz, so glad to have you for the hour.
Thank you
for being here, man.